Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Player's Take, episode 63. I am your host, Justin DeSimone, joined by my co-host, Commander Shepard Montrell Rice.
Hey, what's up?
What's going on, man?
Just taking everything day by day.
Living life, waking up at like fucking 1 or something.
I'm trying to stay on a good schedule, but yeah, that's pretty much the gist of it.
Word. Okay. Well, for those of you who haven't listened before, Players Take is our weekly show where we talk about video games, video game news, and other topics pertaining to video games. We post at 6 a.m. Central Time on Fridays on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, and your favorite podcast app of choice. Let's start, like we always do, with what we've been playing. Let Montrell start this week. What have you been playing, sir?
Well, I'm still just dabbling in Neo 2. I haven't really wanted to finish the game, but I've just been coming back to it here and there. I finished Mass Effect 2. I'm on Mass Effect 3. I'm about to finish that. And then I did already start a little campaign for Mass Effect Andromeda.
Man.
I want to give that game a second chance.
Jesus.
Yeah. I did buy Final Fantasy 7. I do have Persona. I'm going to play next. Persona 5, not the Royal Edition, just the regular one, because I have the regular one.
Okay.
And also have Resident Evil 3. But I'm not playing those. Those are going to be like I want to get through my backlog. So I'm probably going to go back and play like Witcher 3 and all those stuff like that before I even touch these games. So I'm probably not even going to touch these games probably till the end of the month.
Mm-hmm.
The newer games. Because I still have to play Outer Worlds as well. So
oh my god! I mean, dude, my pile. Sorry, I'm talking away from the mic, but because I'm looking at my pile. My pile is about as high as my ottoman, and yeah, I mean, an ottoman is probably a couple feet tall. So that should tell you how many games I have in my backlog. It's not good. Not good.
Yeah, it's pretty bad for me too, because I still have some games on the Switch that I need to beat.
Yeah.
As well.
Oh my god. Yeah.
So,
well, because I think what I'm doing right now, I'm actually doing the opposite of what you're doing. I'm trying to play more current shit. That's kind of my plan in the next month or so, is to play current stuff, and then once I'm finished with all of it, then jump on the backlog, because I think from the end of May through September, I don't think we're gonna have much at all coming out in terms of super interesting games that I'm gonna be putting stuff aside for. So I think Xenoblade Chronicles is probably the last one that I'm super excited for. I know we have Ghost of Tsushima, but there's, in my opinion, a high likelihood that gets delayed. So I don't even know if I want to play that anyways. So that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Okay. And then I've been playing League of Legends. I've been playing some ranked and norms pubs with the unexpected friend, which is DJ, who fucking hated League of Legends.
Wait, really?
Yeah, he fucking hated League of Legends, but now
he's playing it now.
Yeah, he loves TFT. He loves the characters, so his friends convinced him to go play norms, and now he's playing norms. He actually likes it. So have a friend to play League of Legends with.
Man.
So I thought that was pretty funny, because he was just saying stuff like, "Oh, I fucking hate Garen and Master Yi," and I was like, man, I was laughing because I never thought I'd hear him say these champion names and all this shit like that. So
yeah,
it's funny.
Well, okay, you just kind of glossed over the Mass Effect, but I mean, what are your thoughts, man? Now that you finished 2 and you're almost done with 3, does it hold up the way you remember?
2 definitely did. 3 actually changed my mind on a lot of things about 3, but 2,
in a bad way?
No, in a good way.
Okay.
2, I did the suicide mission and I made a mistake and killed Thane, so I had to restart the whole thing.
Wait, the whole mission or the game?
The whole mission.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the whole mission. So I made a mistake and killed Thane because I put him in events, and I forgot I was supposed to put Kasumi in events the last time I did it. So
yeah,
he took a rocket to the face when he was closing the door.
Oh man, that's funny.
So as far as everything else, as far as Mass Effect 2, the character development is, like I said, is really top notch. That game's really a 9 out of 10 game for me. I mean, there's some stuff they can improve that they actually did in 3. So I understood now why they did some of the things they did in 3. So it's like they played 2 before they played 3, which I'm assuming is what happened. As soon as they got done with 2, they went right into development for 3.
Mm-hmm.
For us, it's been like 2 years, but for them, it was probably like 6 months. As soon as they
Not
got
even, dude.
not even probably like a month.
I think they immediately went into dev on 3. Like I think 3 was in pre-pro before 2 even came out, probably because that's how quickly 3 came out. 3 came out 2 years after 2 came out.
Yeah,
I think, right?
That's true. That's true. You are right.
Yeah.
So I'm taking that in consideration. So like them, I went directly into Mass Effect 3. I immediately noticed all the changes that I wanted from Mass Effect 2 that I was sick of. And I think this is what they did as far as Mass Effect 3. You know the planet scanning, how it's just so quick. You just scan while you driving your ship around.
Yeah.
Like Mass Effect 2, I was over that shit. Like I love it, but I was over it.
There's too much of it though.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And as far as the dialogue options, I love the dialogue options and everything like that nature in Mass Effect 2. But by the time I got to Mass Effect 3, I was over it. Sometimes I wanted Commander Shepard to do the mundane conversations. Because you remember Mass Effect 2, every time you talked to Commander Shepard, you had to pick a dialogue choice. Whereas Mass Effect 3, it's only certain instance where you gotta in a conversation where you have to choose. Sometimes she'll automatically say stuff.
Right.
And I think this is their mindset going into that game. They were like, okay, I feel like a lot of players are gonna be over this shit by the time they jump into Mass Effect 2. So it really puts a spin on how they developed, because a lot of the quality of life changes, I consider quality of life changes, are like pegs or bashes I had on it when the game first came out.
Yeah.
Because I had to wait 2 years. But now that I jumped right into it, I immediately noticed why they did those changes, because they probably thought we were still playing Mass Effect 2, and they're like, okay, they're over this shit. They just wanted to progress through the story and everything of that nature. Now,
I got a question though. I want to interject real quick.
Yeah.
Do you think the dialogue stuff that you just mentioned, though, do you think that could be more attributable to the idea that they didn't have time to get all the lines that they might have wanted recorded and in the game? Because that definitely feels possible. I don't know, I don't know if we could definitively say that was their design vision, was to take some of that out, but maybe it was. It's possible, definitely possible.
Yeah, it's definitely possible. I just know by the time I got through it, and maybe this is too because this is my second playthrough or my 5th playthrough, wherever the fuck. I don't even know how many times I played this goddamn franchise at this point. But maybe it's just because of that. I don't know. And I'm doing like a completely different like build and everything for Shepard. Like I'm doing some unnatural stuff that I normally don't do. So I am getting some stuff that I normally don't see. But even still, I'm like, okay, I want the conversation to flow, and it does flow in Mass Effect 3, but I do think that is a product as well of them not having time to record all the dialogue and everything of that nature that they had from Mass Effect 3. So that very well may be the case. As far as the combat, I still think Mass Effect 3 has the best combat out of all of them.
I bet I'm going to agree with you.
You said what?
I bet I'm going to agree with you, because I actually really don't think 2's is that great, personally.
Once I jumped into 3, the first battle, I immediately was like, oh my God, this is way better than 2.
Yeah.
It was almost immediate.
2, you could tell it's that it feels like a 360 / PS3 generation shooter. Like it just feels really stilted and like stiff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and the shots just don't feel like they have impact, you know?
Exactly. Yep. And when I went to 3, Commander Shepard's fluidity as far as movement is way better. Like it's up there with Andromeda. The tech combos and the biotic combos that you can do and things of that nature. I thought that they got rid of the global cooldown, but they didn't. They got rid of it in Andromeda, but they got so you can do different. Each skill shot has different cooldowns.
Right.
Whereas in Mass Effect 1 through 3, everything's on a global cooldown.
You use one and they're all on cooldown. Yeah.
Exactly. But that being said, your teammates complement you more as far as their powers, and they have a lot more power options available to them because you do have such a limited number of teammates. And you yourself have a lot of powers and RPG elements in there. So like the combat as far as RPG wise, it went kind of back to Mass Effect 1 because Mass Effect 2 was super streamlined.
Yeah.
Whereas Mass Effect 3, they went back. They kind of compromised between 1 and 2, where you have a lot of options with your choices as far as putting your skill points in, things of that nature.
Yeah.
It's just unfortunate that sometimes the story does seem a little rushed, but I'm not done with it yet. So my opinion on that story may change next week. But I did jump into the multiplayer, and there's still a ton of people playing the multiplayer.
Really? That's awesome.
Yeah, and I'm
the
having
servers are still live for that?
Yes, it is.
Man, that's crazy.
A ton of people are still playing. I'm instantly jumping into matches. Like at 6 o'clock in the morning, I'm jumping into matches instantly. So, yeah, there's still a ton of people playing Mass Effect 3 because I told you, like, it had like a cult following. Like the build you can do on that game on the multiplayer is insane. What you can do with the different classes they have, like Vorcha tankers and Geth infiltrators and all this other stuff. Like it's crazy the amount of people you can, the amount of races you can play with, and the builds you can build. So it's almost endless. Yeah. As far as Andromeda, I'm giving it a second chance. The writing is still weak, but the combat is just, man, some of the best this game has to offer, man.
Yeah.
If they could somehow have the writing of the old trilogy, but the combat of Andromeda in the next Mass Effect game, that would probably be the perfect sci-fi game. Because, man, I know you haven't played Andromeda yet, but man, when you play it, the different options
I didn't get very far in it. I played about 4 hours, I think. I did the intro world, and you have access to nothing at that point in the game. You have access to your guns. That's about it.
Yeah. When you actually become the Pathfinder in Andromeda and you unlock like 4 fucking classes that you can combine, it's fucking it's crazy the build you can do.
Did you play all these on PS4 or Xbox?
Xbox.
You did. And how were the load times okay, or are they as bad as they are on PlayStation?
No, they're actually pretty fast.
Because, man, dude, on PlayStation, it takes like a minute to a minute and a half to load anything in all the games. So it was, except for Andromeda. Andromeda's probably the exception, but.
Yeah. I didn't notice it. I noticed like when I installed the game on my Xbox One, I don't know if they have some kind of enhanced feature for the past games because the graphics look actually really good. And I don't know if that's just because they did a good job back then or whatever, but for like a 2012 game, the game looks really good. And the load times were like, I was maybe in the load screen for like maybe 20 seconds. I'll be pressed to find a 30-second or a minute load screen, in my opinion. So
wow, that's impressive. I mean, they may have optimized those games on Xbox though, knowing people would probably play them.
That's what I think. I think they optimized them. So I mean, I haven't had any issues. I don't have to switch disc because I forgot that was a thing. So, I don't have to switch disc. Yep. Because sometimes it would load really fast. It would load too fast. I'm like, put in disc 2, and then it'll just load disc 2 automatically.
Yeah, because they weren't on Blu-rays in that era, right?
Exactly.
They were just on DVDs. Oh man, that's hilarious.
So that's pretty much what I've been doing. I did play Final Fantasy Remake for a little bit, but I put it down because I still want to finish the Mass Effect line and things of that nature. And I may jump into Dragon Age Inquisition because I just never finished that game. Yeah, and I may finish that. So
cool. All right. Well, me, I beat Berwick Saga on Monday.
Ooh.
And I mean, I've said a lot about this game, but I guess I'll finish it off here. The game is a masterpiece, in my opinion. It is the best tactical game I've ever played. I don't as much as I love Tactics Ogre and I love Final Fantasy Tactics, I don't know, this game, everything in this game works. Like the balance in this game is impeccable. Like even later in the game, things are still very well balanced. Like, it's like you don't feel like you have overpowered units. You don't feel like the enemy has overpowered units for the most part. There are some really dick encounters they put in some of the later battles in the game. And honestly, let me tell you, some of these battles late in the game are fucking insane. Like you're having to hold off like an entire army with like 12 units on 3 different fronts. It's insanity, dude. Some of the stuff they make you do. But the battles are still fun. They feel balanced and they feel beatable, But I think my only complaint probably with this game is the very last battle and the way the game ends. The last battle is kind of the battle itself is fine, but the boss you fight is not a character worthy of being the final boss. If you know what I mean.
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
it's like he's just a character that kind of shows up in the last couple chapters. It's that kind of thing, and he just ends up being the last boss. It wasn't an enemy that was like, built up throughout the game, or somebody that you really like did something really shitty to you. It was just some guy who was really powerful, and he's the last boss. And then the game kind of ends really abruptly after that, because the funny part is like the game ends but the war's not over. It's like there's still fallout from the war that happens after the game's over, and it kind of feels abrupt, like they probably could have added a couple more chapters to the game. So I don't know if that's a time constraint, or this is how they envision the game and they were just okay with the way it ended, or what. But that is probably my only disappointment with the game, is that some plot threads just kind of didn't get resolved, or kind of got resolved in just like text after the final mission, because they didn't have a mission for it. So that was a little disappointing personally, but otherwise the game is just phenomenal. Every character gets like a send off at the end of the game, and you kind of get an idea where they're going. It's not guaranteed. You do have to work for those like post game epilogues for these characters. But that's kind of cool to me, actually. Like you use them enough that they like you are a part of their lives. So I like that part of it too.
Okay.
And yeah, I mean, I can't recommend this game enough, man. Like it's just it's a phenomenal game. Like it really is. It is unique. It is extremely unique within the strategy RPG genre. And as much as it takes a lot from Fire Emblem, it does so many things different from it that they're barely comparable, in my opinion. And in terms of story, like overall, as much as I was disappointed in the end, I think the game's lead up to the end is really, really, really good. The way the war kind of like unfolds is really interesting, and a lot of the characters are really interesting, and their motivations and some of the things they do, and even who they are. Is really, they're really interesting pieces. There's a lot of lore in this world, and it's sad that like I'm kind of sad that there's not going to ever be another game in this universe, because I would really love to see something like that, because the world is really interesting.
Okay.
Characters live in. So yeah, recommend that. I've now that I've played this and I've like used like a translation patch, there's actually another strategy RPG called Front Mission 5, which Front Mission is like a mech strategy RPG series.
Yeah.
And we got 1 through 4 here in the States, but we never got 5, and 5 was on PS2. And there's apparently a fan translation patch for that game as well. So that game's on my docket now, probably to play at some point in the future. I'm probably not going to do it now, but it's in my mind, because that series is so good. Front Mission is an incredible strategy RPG series. Like in terms of my like, favorites ever that I played, like Front Mission 4 is probably high up there. So, and Front Mission 3 is no slouch either. That game is really good, even though it's like a PS1 game. It's still very impressive for what it is. So, yeah, finished Berwick. I've been playing more Apex. Really enjoying this game still. It's kind of just my multiplayer game right now. And also been playing more Gwent. This is kind of my solo multiplayer game, like the one that no one else I know plays. Just having fun with it. I'm still really enjoying the cards, the deck building, and the way cards kind of interact with each other and stuff in that game. And then, yeah, I started playing Final Fantasy VII Remake a couple days ago. I was able to get it on Friday. And I've only played about 2 hours. I got past the demo sequence, and I'm now into chapter 2. I don't have much to say in the game so far. It is fucking gorgeous, though. That is like undeniable. I really love the art style that they went with in this game. It's like a mix between a really realistic look, but kind of has some odes to the old Final Fantasy VII.
Okay.
And like, because some of the backgrounds have that hand drawn kind of look that the original game had,
Yeah.
And I really dig that. But yeah, I haven't gotten very far. I mean, you're basically still just using Cloud for the most part right now, so I don't even have a party yet. So there's not
Okay.
much to say. So I'll probably have more to say next week. I do plan on diving into this game. This is probably going to be my main game for the foreseeable future. As much as I want to get back to Neo 2, I don't want to like split my time too much between these two games. So
Okay, yeah, because DJ still he made an actual video on his podcast, and he said that this game is very much like Final Fantasy 15, which I hard disagree. But
Final Fantasy 7?
I mean, yeah, Final Fantasy 7. Yeah, he said this game is exactly like Final Fantasy 15.
Mm,
This is a hard disagree for me. And
I don't understand how he's getting that out of this game. Like I can see the seeds, like the roots of Final Fantasy 15's combat are definitely in this game, but
yeah, I agree with that part.
yeah, but they've added layers on top that are make the game very different to play.
Yeah,
There's a lot more strategy in terms of positioning, I feel like, than Final Fantasy 15 ever had. And the way you prioritize enemies actually kind of matters in this game.
yeah,
Because for me, in the early part of the game, I am really focusing heavily on the ranged enemies that are really weak, the ones that just shoot machine guns at you.
yeah.
I'm prioritizing them when I'm in a fight because the melee enemies are beefy as hell and they do a lot of damage, but they're not as threatening because you can reliably dodge their attacks or block them. Whereas
Exactly.
the ranged guys shooting the machine guns, you can't dodge, you can block, but it's like you're taking a shitload of damage still. So I think there's some strategy for sure. I'm not sure. I honestly got to say, even on normal, the game is fairly challenging so far. It is not. I wouldn't say it's not easy at all. And I appreciate that. So yeah, so I'll have more thoughts on that as I play it more. But that is pretty much all I've been playing. So let's move into the news. So first story, this is a kind of a weird one to put on the show, but since we're in the situation we're in with the quarantine and coronavirus running wild, I did want to kind of mention this just almost as like a PSA because Sony announced starting today, day of recording actually the 15th, they are going to be giving away 2 games outside of PlayStation Plus. The Uncharted, Nathan Drake, the Uncharted Collection, and then Journey on PS4. Both games on PS4. That is along with the PS Plus games, which is Uncharted 4 this month, and then I think something Dirt 3 or something like that. I forget the other one.
Oh yeah, it's Dirt 3. It's a dirt bike game. Yeah.
But they're giving away the entire Uncharted franchise this month.
Wait,
if you're
really?
if you're a PS Plus member, yeah, that's all the Uncharted games besides Lost Legacy and the one on Vita, Golden Abyss. So the main Uncharted games, though, 1 through 4, they're all free right now. So I mean,
that's actually a really good deal, guys.
Yeah, that's awesome, dude.
Yeah.
That's. I mean, they're not long games either. You can probably get through all 4 of them in 70-ish hours, I'd say.
Yeah, and they all have decent gameplay and a nice little story. Yeah,
they're fun romps. You can get through one in a weekend. Probably in a couple days. So
I do definitely recommend Journey. That's a really good game.
Yep,
it took
and
me
that'll
by
be
surprise.
Cool. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I'm done.
Okay. Yeah, that'll be a good one too because more people will be playing it since it's free right now, and they're kind of boosting it by doing this. So you'll be able to play the way it's meant to be played with other people. So that's cool. So yeah, that's good on Sony. They also have a huge spring sale going on right now through the 28th. I did take a look at this myself yesterday, and they have a very significant amount of games on sale, and the discounts are not insignificant. A lot of them, a $60 game, some of them are $20 off. So some games are even 50% off, 60% off, even 75% off in some cases. So definitely worth looking into as well if you're looking for something cheap to purchase in order to entertain yourself at the moment. So yeah, I don't know if Xbox has something similar going on. I'm not in that ecosystem, but do you know? Are you aware of anything?
I didn't really see anything to this magnitude from Xbox that PlayStation did. So Xbox needs to step up their game. But I mean, they got all that other stuff going on. So I'm pretty sure this is not on their radar. But that's a pretty good move from PlayStation. I respect it, and I'm definitely about to dibble and dab into it because I didn't even know about the summer sale or the spring sale till now. So
yep. Yeah, because it says 70% off my Marvel Spider-Man Game of the Year edition with all the DLC. So that would be like what, $20, $15 for that game plus the DLC. I mean, that's a great deal. Sekiro, I think, is on sale as well. Hold on, let me find that here. Sekiro. Yeah, Sekiro is $38.99, down from $59.99, which is not a bad price. And then Iceborne, actually, the Master Edition is $40 as well. So decent discounts. Yeah, Spider-Man's $19.99 with the Game of the Year edition. That is a great price for that game.
I'm sorry. I know I mentioned The Witcher 3. This just popped up in my head, and I think you'll appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Henry Cavill was on IG Live the other day painting Warhammer figures.
Yeah. Hey, man. Hey, dude. I love it. That's awesome, man.
I think this dude was like a serious nerd in high school. He just got beefed up. It was like, I don't know.
He got picked on, and he's like, man, I'm gonna show these jocks I can be ripped and a nerd. Fucking
exactly.
Look at him now, man. He's the fucking Witcher. Like, he was Superman. This dude's. I love that dude, man. He's cool, man.
Yeah.
I love that. I love it when celebrities like embrace their nerddom. It's
exactly.
It's awesome, man.
I'm sorry, they had even this is a rapper. She's a popular rapper right now. Her name's Meg Thee Stallion. She was on Crunchyroll's IG Live talking about different anime that she watched. Now, a lot of people didn't believe that she watched it, but she named like a whole bunch of obscure anime.
Why do people do that, man? Why do they do that? I hate that. I don't know, man. Like, why do they accuse these people of not being legit? Like, and I feel like it happens to women too, more often than not.
Yeah, it does. I remember when what's his face, Michael B. Jordan came out and said he watched anime, but he pronounced Naruto. He said Shippuden or Shippuden or something like that, and people were like, "Oh, you don't actually watch."
Well,
this shit.
I say Shippuden. You can say Shippuden. It's supposed to be Shippuden, right? I think.
Is it Shippuden? I say Shippuden.
I say Shippuden. It isn't. I mean, who cares? Like, yeah. I say Naruto. You say Naruto. Like whatever. So, or I did that backwards. I don't even know.
Yeah, we don't know at this point. So, yeah. But yeah, I mean that happened to him as well, but it wasn't as bad as Megan because she actually made a couple of photo shoots based off like My Hero Academia characters and everything of that nature. So, I thought that was pretty cool to see everybody embracing the culture in the quarantine.
Right. Yeah. Well, that is pretty cool. I did see. EA was having issues with their servers yesterday for all their games. Yep. And fucking Snoop Dogg was on Twitter, man. He was like, yo, get your shit together. We're all trying to play video games right now. Fix your shit. I'm pissed. Like, I was like, damn, dude, Snoop's going at him. So, yeah, it's funny stuff. I mean, we're all at home right now. Like, what else are you doing? You know? It's
exactly.
Like, you know, some of us are working, and it's like, if you're not, like, what are you doing, you know? Okay, cool. Yeah. It's a good sale. Worth looking into. Sony sales honestly have gotten much better in the last couple of years.
Honestly, I think their sales have always been really good, in my opinion. Yeah. Their sales have always been like
because PlayStation Plus members get an even deeper discounts on a lot of this stuff than what they have listed on their site. So yeah, which I find it's a cool perk, honestly. Too. So,
yeah, it is.
So yeah. All right, let's move on to our second story. This one is pretty wild. No, I'm not sure it's true, but we're going to talk about it.
I think it's true.
The Cooking Mama developer First Playable was accused of using their game to mine cryptocurrency because it apparently has blockchain in the code, and this has been confirmed by the developers. They said that, yes, it does have blockchain. But the reason that people were accusing them of this is because this actually came out pre-release, but once the game was out and in people's hands, it started like making their switches overheat, and it was draining battery extremely fast, which is not – a game shouldn't be doing that. Yeah. Particularly a game like Cooking Mama. This isn't like Zelda Breath of the Wild, you know? Exactly. Not a game, or The Witcher 3, not a game that's like pushing the switch to its limit, you know? So that kind of started to make people wonder what the hell was going on, right? So that part about the blockchain being in the code kind of piqued people's ears, and a lot of rumors are flying around, and the developers are being accused of mining cryptocurrency through the game. The thing that's really laying credence to all this, though, is the fact that the game was very quickly delisted off the eShop after it came out. Within a couple days, right?
Yep.
So I don't think it's still not back on the eShop either, right? As
it was not.
Recording?
I just checked. Yeah,
right.
I just checked.
So yeah, so it was taken off and it's down. So does that mean that they were indeed mining cryptocurrency with this game? I don't necessarily think so. There could be a lot of reasons why Nintendo took it off the Switch or took it off the eShop, because if it truly is overheating switches and eating battery really fast, that's something Nintendo, yeah, they probably want to fix that regardless of what the hell else is going on, you know?
Yeah.
They don't want a game doing that. So particularly a game series, this is actually a fairly popular series. So I doubt they want one like this doing that to people's Switches. But what are your thoughts on this? We seem to be on different sides of the spectrum here.
I think it's happening. Like, well, this game is not like you said, a intensive, like graphic heavy game. It's like one of those fun cook games or 2D games that you like a rhythm type game.
Mm-hmm.
And I just thought it was pretty crazy, like because it was actually pulled up the eShop within a few hours of release. So not even days. It was a couple of hours, and people's Switches were overheating and everything of that nature.
Which that's pretty crazy, man. I've never seen a game do that.
Exactly.
To my knowledge.
The simple fact that Nintendo pulled it off, I think there's either, I mean, one, you can say like the litigation behind the Switches can be that, or I think they actually it does have something in the code for this cryptocurrency mining situation that's going on.
Yeah.
Because that's just a random thing to pull out the air. Like, people just don't pull out random cryptocurrency things.
Well, I mean, it has blockchain in the code, so it's not a far leap of logic to think, oh, it's possible they're using the game to mine cryptocurrency.
Yeah.
You know, with that. So, but I mean, according to them, this is a quote off Twitter. They replied to a journalist, and I quote here: "As the developers, we can say with certainty there is no cryptocurrency or data collection or blockchain or anything else shady in the code. The Nintendo Switch is a very safe platform with none of the data and privacy issues associated with some mobile and PC games." Which, yeah, I don't know. Seems like a non-answer to the question. They said obviously they said no data collection or blockchain, but I mean, I think people data mined the game and found the blockchain in the code. So
yeah,
something's going on here, whatever it is. It could just be as simple as Nintendo has a certain quality mandate they have, and this game's not meeting that bar right now. But or it could be that plus them mining cryptocurrency through their game. Who knows?
Well, they should have came out and said why the game was delisted. They haven't came out and said that yet. So
yeah, I mean, that is interesting. It'll be interesting to see how long it stays off too, like off the eShop.
I think they're just trying to because I haven't seen the Twitter feeds for this and the Reddit threads for this die down. So I think they're trying to like let the heat die down first, and then they're going to try to tackle it or come out and say what's going on. But I think something's shady going on in the background.
Well, this kind of thing can kill this game too, dude. Like, your launch week basically got ripped away from you, and now you have to relaunch the game at some point in the future that you don't really know, and your fans aren't really going to know. And whenever it gets relisted, it's going to be really abrupt, probably. So it's really bad for this game, in that sense as well, from a financial standpoint.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I thought this story was pretty interesting because
it is. You guys should read up on it if you're interested. There's a lot out there. There are some Reddit pros. Some people are not, they're just throwing accusations out there with very little proof. So take it with a grain of salt. Whatever whatever conclusion you can come to on your own. So, all right, let's move on to our next story. So this one kind of went under the radar, I feel like, but
it did because I didn't even hear about this story.
I don't know if I'm going to classify this as a big deal, but it kind of feels really ironic given the way the ESRB has talked about this topic in the past. So the story is that the ESRB is now going to be putting warnings about loot boxes on its game ratings. It's nothing specifically spelling out loot boxes, but it is saying the game is going to have a label under it that says in-game purchases, and then in parentheses includes random items, close parentheses, basically indicating loot boxes or some kind of random in-game purchases, like a card game or something like that would have booster packs with random cards in it or something like that, or a gacha game would fall under this as well. That's not your typical loot box kind of game. So loot boxes obviously would also fall into this. It's just really ironic to me, though, that this happened because the ESRB bent over backwards to fucking defend loot boxes last year. And here we are. They have now caved to whether it was fan outcry or the government or what have you. and they now have this label.
I don't think they're getting the money they're once getting, like lobbyists. I mean, we're in a recession, or not a recession, but this virus is taking a lot of money away. So
Yeah.
people just can't give them money to lobby for them anymore, and they have to do something about it.
Right.
And this is the result.
Yeah.
But it was swept under the rug. It was really swept under the rug.
It really was. I didn't see this anywhere. I just kind of came into this because I was like browsing my aggregation feed, and it was one of the stories, and I was like, wait a second, what the fuck? Why is nobody talking about this? Like, this feels like a big deal, Like, the ESRB is actually calling out loot boxes on games. Not like anybody actually reads the ratings, But I don't know. Like, this is the ESA. They are literally the lobby arm of, this is part of that lobbying arm of the game industry. So, I don't know.
I don't know. It is pretty weird. I mean, it is a good time to do it because a lot of people are distracted. Yeah. So you just pass it through and not give the gamers the satisfaction that they actually made progression in their protesting of loot boxes. But I don't know. And I didn't see Kotaku write about it. I didn't see Jason Schreier tweet about it. I didn't see Young Gia talk about it. I didn't see nobody.
Right. And you think I didn't see Jim Sterling either. You think that him and Young Gia would be all over this shit.
Yeah, because they're always on top of down with the corporations and stuff like that.
Right. Right. Then again, I mean, I'm not up on their channel, so maybe they have something recently, like in the last day or so that I haven't seen. But
unfortunately, I'm still subscribed to Young Gia, so this stuff still comes up on my newsfeed. I just unsubscribed to him yesterday.
Yeah, I've been finding some new YouTubers to follow, man. I sent you one actually, that Witcher video. Did you ever watch that?
I did. That was a really good video.
Did you watch the whole thing?
I watched 2 hours of it.
Okay, dude. Yeah, it's fucking super good. His name's Joseph Anderson or something like that. The guy puts out one video a month and has $5,000 in Patreon money coming in every month. I don't know how he does it, but
okay. So I can confirm, as of yesterday, Young Gia did put on something about the loot boxes.
Cool.
Yesterday.
Go check that out, guys. If you want to hear him quote the article.
You really hate this dude.
I don't know. It's just that one time, man. I haven't even listened to a video since then. It's there was one time I remember he had a video. It was the laziest thing I've ever seen anybody on YouTube do, where he just read Reddit posts and quoted people on Reddit and didn't actually profess his own opinion throughout the entire video. And it was I was like, what is happening here? So I don't know. I can never get that out of my head. So I don't hate the dude. I mean, more power to him. People listen to him. But
yeah, that's pretty.
Yeah, but I prefer. I'm starting to prefer content more like that Witcher video. That's more in depth and really kind of professes goes in depth, professes an opinion, and then backs that opinion up with things in the game or whatever facts they have to back it up. I like that kind of content a lot more personally.
I thought about doing something like that for us, or just making a channel and we put up our games that we like to talk about and things of that nature, especially the games that people say are bad, but you like them and you have the reasons why you like them. It's not just, well, I like them because I like them, but there's reason to back up the reasons you like these games.
Oh God.
A lot of people
feel like a Last Remnant video is somewhere in my future. Man.
So, I mean, because I work with DJ to make a logo for us.
Mm-hmm.
So this is for the listeners. I am working on a logo. We are working on a logo. I did give him some of the colors that me and you talked about, and we should have a YouTube channel coming out probably by the end of this month. So I'm gonna get more with you on that as well. But
okay, yeah, this is news to me.
yeah, man, exclusive.
Oh man,
yeah,
put me on the spot.
I am gonna buy me a capture card as well, so that we can have some background footage and stuff like that. So.
Okay. Yeah, I already actually have one. So.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah. I should capture something. Maybe my Final Fantasy VII footage. Probably not. I don't want to spoil that game for anybody. Which
I have been watching Twitch lately, and I don't know, man. Twitch doesn't do it for me anymore like it used to.
Yeah, me either. I had a phase of a year where I was really into it, and then kind of fell off pretty hard. I don't think I've watched Twitch in a year and a half probably, I'd say. Yeah,
I used to be really into it and I just stopped.
Yeah, the only thing on Twitch that I like is like Critical Role, which is a D&D show, basically, and it's not like video games, so it's totally outside of Twitch's like normal fare that they kind of promote. So,
You know, it's interesting. I'm watching other stuff on Twitch, like people cooking and
yeah, man,
like
there's some
that. Like,
interesting stuff out there, dude.
yeah,
Like, yeah, board game content is actually like very palatable to me. I like it a
yeah.
lot.
I've been watching some of that stuff too, and
Yeah.
it's really interesting seeing people play and
Mm-hmm.
people play like either online or something like that. I was watching one channel where all of them had the same game. Of course, they weren't with each other because of the virus, but
Mm-hmm.
they were moving each other's pieces when it was each other's turn. If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
It was pretty cool. And I actually had a Skype session like that the other week where we were playing just Monopoly and stuff. And I thought that
I
was
was thinking about doing that, but I don't have like a camera really that I can use. So I'm like, man, I'd love to just do like a virtual board game night
yeah.
and
I
like
actually
set
have
everything up here and like, I'll move all the pieces and shit and other people can tell me what they want to do.
I have a 1080p camera, so I mean, if you want to borrow that for one of those nights when you do it, then yeah, because that's what I use for my board game night with my family.
You have like an actual camera, not like a
Yeah,
webcam.
I was streaming for a minute before
Okay.
I started doing the podcast and stuff like that. I was streaming League of Legends, so I had actual 1080p like 60 frames per second camera.
Cool. Okay. Cool. Well, if you ever look at an ESRB rating for like Overwatch, it should have that on there now.
Fucking Overwatch.
Yeah, that game's dead. All right, let's move on. Next story. It's another rumor, but this one seems pretty legit. This is coming from Video Game Chronicle. This was reported on Sunday, it looks like. So Capcom, obviously, they've made Resident Evil 2 Remake, 3 Remake in the last 2 years. Potentially could be working on Resident Evil 4 Remake with a target of 2022 as a release. Not much really to go off beyond that. This is a pretty in-depth report, but seems like this is actually happening. I mean, what are your thoughts on this? I know you're big into Resident Evil, but
I think Resident Evil 4 is one of those games that first of all, Resident Evil, let's just be honest, right? Resident Evil 4 has been released on every console known to man.
mm-hmm.
You have a cell phone, it's on your cell phone. If you have a Switch.
If you have a Wii, you can play Resident Evil 4, man.
Yeah, if you have a Wii.
With the fucking Wiimote.
Yeah. So I understand why Capcom is doing it because it's obviously one of their most popular games. Because the game is really good. It's one of those games where it's like when you play it, it does feel dated, but it's still perfect. If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
This is one of those games where I'm very scared for the remake, like because they're basing the remake of all these other Resident Evil games off this game. Like when this game came out, this changed the landscape of how third-person shooters play. Resident Evil 4 was the first one to have the over-the-shoulder camera. And everybody started doing that. Like it impacted the industry in ways that I don't even think Capcom knew that they did it. So that being said, I'm very scared for the remake. I think they should remake like another isometric Resident Evil game, which was Code Veronica. A lot of people want that one remade. Mm-hmm. That's a really good game. It's like a spinoff of Resident Evil 2 and 3. But it's a really good game. And a lot of people want that to be remade because the story is really good and everything of that nature. Resident Evil 4, I mean, it's a good game. I just don't think it should be remade. I think it should be remastered, like, updated textures and maybe some quality of life stuff. But I don't think it should be completely remade. I don't want that. As a Resident Evil fan, I don't want that.
Well, okay. But the fact that 2022 is the target date for this kind of indicates to me they're going to take a little bit more time with this one than they have with these other two, which sounds like a good choice, given what you're saying. But I mean, didn't we say all these same things about Final Fantasy VII, back when that was announced? Like, as much as everybody wanted a remake, when they announced that it was going to be action-based, though, like, everybody was like, oh, God, like, they're going to ruin this. And lo and behold, the game's out and everybody fucking loves it. So I think it's not an unwinnable task here for Capcom. And
Touche.
Given their track record recently, I feel like we can trust them probably to do this right. And I
Well, the
mean,
thing is, a lot of people are scared because Resident Evil 3, the
mhm,
campaign, like barely 4 or 5 hours. Like I didn't beat it
right.
yet, but
Yeah.
it's barely 4 or 5 hours. They didn't do a whole lot as far as like remember we said on the podcast, I said they may have just taken the station from 2 and just plopped it into 3 because it is the same, setting and station and everything of that nature, police
Yeah.
station.
Yeah.
That has pretty much been confirmed.
Ooh,
confirmed.
man.
They worked a lot. A lot of people feel like they worked a lot on the multiplayer aspect of it to make the game streamable,
Hmm.
which it does have that streamable feel. The multiplayer does.
Yeah.
I'm not really into it, but I can definitely see streamers and YouTubers playing it a lot with their viewers and things of that nature. But the campaign itself, it's it, it's really fast, like really fast.
Yeah.
I
I saw
haven't.
some people saying they were beating it in like 4 hours.
Yeah, and that's what a lot of people. And coming off of that, a lot of people feel like Resident Evil 4 is going to do that, but it's coming out in 2022, so that gives me a little hope that they're actually going to balance it because the zombies they took in Resident Evil 2 and put in Resident Evil 3, they're way too spongy because Resident Evil 3 is like almost damn near a action horror game.
Yeah,
Whereas
that game was way different from the first three, right? It's like a lot more. It's a lot less serious. I feel like that's my understanding of 4. Is there's a lot more
yeah,
like funny moments and
yeah. 4 is definitely way more action packed. It does have its moments of being scary, but it's more. It's not trying to scare you. It's creeping you out. It's more so creeping you out. At that point, they're not trying to be scary like they were in the first 3 games. And Resident Evil 5 or 3 remake has that same vibe. It
Mhm.
doesn't have like 3 on the original. The original 3 was creepy and scary because Nemesis was chasing you the entire time. You had the isometric camera or that still camera, the controls, everything, and it was a Resident Evil survival game. This
Mhm.
one, from what I gather, is more so almost an action game. But the zombies don't match with the vision that the game was trying to have. The zombies are really bullet spongy.
Yeah,
Um, because in
yeah,
2, they're super bullet spongy, and that was
yeah,
because the game was designed to make you scared and scarce, conserve ammo and pick your battles and things of that nature. Whereas 3, they want you to kind of go in and fight and things of that nature. But
yeah. I heard there wasn't as much scarcity, and yeah,
yeah,
you're more encouraged to fight, which is like very different from what 2 was. But 4, it's like I don't know, like
now 4 was more so like I said 3. Like
yeah,
what they did with 3 was before. Before was way more balanced as far as like enemies on the screen.
hmm,
Um, like I said, you will run inside a house or something like that. You'll block the door. The zombies will come through the window. Okay, so you block the first floor windows. You block all of them. They will pull up a ladder. The AI will find a ladder in a village and pull up a ladder and then bust the windows through the top floor. So like the
hmm,
game was really good as far as like it was different as far as for a Resident Evil fan because zombies were mainly stupid, but you were playing with these parasitic humans that knew how to maneuver around your tactics. So it
hmm,
was cool. Like if you aim at their face, they would duck,
yeah,
and or they'll try to block the shots with their hands or something of that nature. So, or if there was a beefier zombie, he would run in front of the other zombies and takes a lot of the damage. So it was just a lot with Resident Evil 4 that people appreciate. Um, and also they had a mechanic in there. If you're doing too well in the game will progressively get harder. And if you're doing really bad, the game will progressively get easier.
hmm,
And it didn't tell you at all. It was just people started to notice that. And people didn't discover that until like maybe 2 years ago. That they were
yeah.
like, wow, this is actually really cool how they designed the game. So the game was like really designed really well. So I'm guessing that's why they're taking 2 years to work on this because this is a huge, like it's almost like Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah, this is the game. I mean,
Yeah,
this is the Resident Evil game everybody knows.
yeah,
You know,
exactly. This is a
if
Final
you've
Fantasy
played a
VII
Resident
setting.
Evil game, this is probably the one you've played. That's how
Yeah,
big this game is.
yeah, and yeah, this game got a lot of people into it and a lot of people out of it, but like you said, this is the Final Fantasy VII to Resident Evil 4 is. I thought Resident Evil 2 was, but in my opinion, but no, you're right. Resident Evil 4 is definitely way
Yeah.
up there, and they should take this more seriously, and I think they are. And I'm glad that it's not coming out for another 2 years. because they were just going to release it next year, then I would definitely be like, I don't know about this.
Well, and maybe that was kind of their approach with 3, because 3 is the one that's like the black sheep of the first 4 Resident Evils. I feel like the one that no one ever talks about, and I feel
Yeah,
like
they have
no
some
one ever.
interesting concepts, but yeah,
Yeah,
you're right.
it's definitely the one that was the least popular and probably the least successful too. And I bet Capcom either knew that and didn't put as much effort into it, or just didn't feel like they could do enough to make it worth the effort to make the game really good. Whereas
Yeah,
with 4, it's like this is the game. They can't fuck this one up. Like
yeah,
this is the one that will define them for like the next 5 years. Like if they
yeah,
fuck this up, people are gonna be pissed at them for a long time. You know,
yeah. It can be
if
another
they get it
Devil May Cry
right,
situation.
if they get it right, though, the opposite will happen. People will be like, "Man, Capcom's killing it! Like, Capcom's been so good the last 5 years." So it's like, I think they know that. They have to be self-aware of that. I don't think like these designers. They know how important these games are. Like that's why Square, like playing Final Fantasy VII Remake, it just feels like they really put so much effort into the game already. I can feel that in the first like 2 hours. It's just like and that's encouraging to see. Because they've been mailing it in for a while, in my opinion. And to see them finally take something seriously and really like fucking nail it. They didn't fuck it up. Like, yeah, sure, the game was in dev for 5 years and they canned a studio in the Cyber Connect and started over. But once they got going on it, though, they got this game out. It took them
Yeah,
probably 3 years to make this game. That's
I feel
impressive
like
for Square.
Yeah, I feel like Nomura is one of those designers or developers. Once he gets in his bag and he's very secure in what he's doing, he can do some amazing things. That's why I think like Final Fantasy or Kingdom Hearts 3,
Mm-hmm.
that development was pretty scattered because his brain was scattered. Like he was concentrating on 2 different things and everything of that nature. Once that game was done, it was like all hands on deck on Final Fantasy 7, and you can tell his hands are in this game the way he rewritten the story and everything of that nature. So
Mm-hmm.
I just hope it's not as convoluted as KH, but I'm very interested in seeing what they're going to do with Final Fantasy VII. And as far as Resident Evil 4, you're right. I think the developers do know what they're doing. I mean, it makes sense because you are right about Resident Evil 3. It is the black sheep. It's mainly almost an extension of 2 because it took the concepts of 2 and then put it right into 3. You got Jill, who's in the same station that Leon and Claire was. Instead of Mr. X chasing you around, you got Nemesis chasing you around. So, I mean, it's the same concept. They just took the second half of 2 and made a whole game out of it, which is 3.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes sense for them to be more experimental with as far as multiplayer and things of that nature because they knew 3, like you said, is not as popular. I thought it would have been, in my opinion, could have been a way to turn that around. So like make 3 like the best one because it definitely has the hallmarks to be the best one. But I mean, if you got more resources to make and remaking 4 and making it, if they can make 4 more creepier, that would be like amazing, like in my opinion, because the game's already perfect in my opinion. But
Yeah.
If they can make it more creepier and maybe take away some of the little funny moments that Leon was, and use the Resident Evil 2 Leon. I think that's why they're doing that too, because Resident Evil 2 Leon is way different from Resident Evil 2 original Leon. Like they're rookie cops in the same situation, but Resident Evil 2 remake Leon is way more serious. I don't see him making the jokes that he was making in Resident Evil 4. I just don't see that
Really?
anymore.
See,
Yeah,
isn't that what the game kind of is though? Like that's the part about it that if they change that, that might be them fucking it up, dude. Because yeah, he's like, from what I understand, a lot of the reason people love Resident Evil 4 is that like Leon is like fucking hilarious. Like,
no, yeah, you're right. He does make the damn video game. Like he's a really
yeah,
good main character to play as. He reminds me of Yuri from fucking Tales of Vesperia. The way his charisma and everything of that nature, the way he
yeah,
just acts.
yeah.
So I mean, maybe they keep that or maybe they don't. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how they pull that off.
Mm-hmm. Word. All right, cool. Well, look forward to that. Let us move on to our final news story. This actually just happened today. So Obviously we've been talking about all these conferences that have been canceled, E3, South by Southwest, all the stuff that's happened recently, GDC and stuff. Well, we have another one that is very likely going to be canceled or changed significantly because Germany, the country, their government has issued a statement saying that they are going to be prohibiting major events until the 31st of August, which is the end of the month that Gamescom takes place in. Gamescom has not issued a statement on this yet, but I would imagine we will hear relatively soon that the conference is either canceled or is going to be fully digital, because there's nothing. I mean, this is a conference that can, or a con rather, that can like pull in 350,000 people, over the course of a few days into the country, and that is obviously not going to be possible here. So I would imagine it's either going to be delayed or they're going to be doing some kind of digital thing. But this is, I mean, nothing is safe at this point from the coronavirus, is what it feels like.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what people were expecting. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of things are going to be getting shut down. We're not going to have probably not a conference until, I'd say, 2022 or late 2021. I don't think we're going to get into the conference till late 2021.
Man,
in my opinion.
Yeah.
The way that, the virus is still not, especially in America, other parts of the country, it's going pretty flat, or other parts of the world, rather, is going pretty flat. But America is still kind of slowly rising. We're coming to a flat, but we're not there yet.
But, I mean, the thing is, until we have a vaccine, I mean, I don't disagree with you necessarily, because even if we flatten the curve, as everybody's been saying, like, okay, we open everything back up, well, then what's stopping this from flaring back up all of a sudden,
Exactly.
And we go through this phase again, and then in another 6 months or 4 months or however long, so until we have a vaccine, I just feel like, we're probably going to be in a situation where maybe not fully locked down the way we are right now, but certain things just aren't going to be doable. And yeah, you're totally right. Like conferences and things that, congregate large groups of people probably aren't going to be possible, So, the fact that Germany's pushing it to August 31st already, and they're like, we're in a much worse state than they are in terms of, number of cases at the moment. Like, it's just like, there's no end in sight to this situation right now. And I feel like I said, nothing is safe. Like, no event is safe. No industry really is safe from what this is kind of doing to the economy and people, and just like our ability to kind of go outside, and be humans. It's like, it seems to have an unending reach, So
it definitely does seem like it's no end in sight. I think by next year, excuse me, I think by next year there will be some kind of vaccine or something like that, because they already had some test trials of people using experimental stuff. But
right.
I think by next year we will be okay. I think right now, as far as the industry and everybody, I think everyone should just stay at home. Like, even if I understand, like, that's like a privileged thing to say, because a lot of people don't have the luxury of doing that. But if you can, just do it. Just stay at home. Just, work from home, something of that nature. So, I mean, even in the midst of me job hunting, there are jobs out there that are like, just interviewing from home. Like, they do a Skype message or Skype video interview with you or something of that nature. A lot of them understand that, in my case, the barber shops are closed. So I may look like a wild, caveman right now, but as far
not
as
much
my
you
hair,
can do about it. I mean, dude, I'm getting to a point where I'm thinking of buying like a barber set on Amazon, bro.
I did already, and I'm watching YouTube videos on how to like cut your own hair, because at this point it's getting ridiculous. I can't do it anymore.
We got to get creative, man. Like, dude,
Yeah.
I mean, my hair. Like, what I think is long hair is like, fucking.
Oh my god, you're so obnoxious with it.
Yeah, like I don't.
You're like, oh my god, come here.
Yeah, no. Compared to you, it's like my hair's like maybe like a quarter as long as yours, and I fucking hate it. Like, I'm like, oh my god, I can't do this. But like the reason why is because it gets greasy, man. So it's like I can't. Like, the more hair I have, the grosser my head is, and
Okay.
it's like it yeah, like once it's over my ear, it starts like going into my, like it's everywhere. It's all over my face, you know. So it's like
Yeah.
I have to cut it short. So yeah, I'm getting close to the point where I'm thinking of buying something to deal with this because yeah, I doubt I'm gonna be able to get a haircut in the next month or month and a half. So
Yeah, all the barbershops I go to, they're all closed. They're
mhm,
so I don't know, man.
right.
Hope you gamers are not having the same issues on it.
Hey man, at least I can still shave.
Yeah, that.
Yeah. Oh god, it would be horrible if I couldn't shave. I would just look like a giant bush.
That is one thing I'm glad I did practice. I practice straight edge shaving, so I know how to shave with the straight edge razor. So I
Mm,
know how to get that barber like on my face. I
yeah.
just choose not to do it because I didn't really have to, but now I have to. So I
Yeah.
already know how to do it. So it's
Right.
pretty easy for me.
Word. All right. Let us move on to game release dates. We only got a couple this week. So Legends of Runeterra, which we talked about, I don't know, back in December when Riot had that like giant stream where they announced like a shitload of games.
Yeah.
And this was one of those games. It is their card game, their digital card game. It has been announced today that it is launching on April 30th. It's going to be on PC, and then it is also going to be on mobile devices, iOS and Android, that same day. The beta has been exclusively on PC up until this point, but it'll be day and date on the other two platforms as well on the 30th. I've been playing Gwent, so this game is like, I've been hearing more about this game recently, and I'm like, I might check it out, man, on the 30th when it comes out. I mean, do you have any interest in this? I know you're a
I don't
League
have
fan,
any.
so
I am a League fan. I'm not really into the card games though. I'm more so waiting for their fighting game to come out. That's the one I'm really looking forward to because that may
okay.
get me back to fighting games in general.
What
I'm
about
glad
Valorant?
though. Yeah, not Valorant, but that's the first person shooter, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I think the other one was called Project G or some shit like that. I don't know.
Okay, yeah,
But I'm glad people are playing it. It's actually getting people to play the base game, like
yeah. Well, this is probably
TFT.
their whole plan,
Yeah,
with this.
it's working. So
Right. I mean, the game looks really cool. I did watch a video on it. It looks very different from other card games. Like the way I was talking about Gwent a couple weeks ago is how Gwent is very different from more traditional card games like Hearthstone and Magic. Legends of Runeterra also seems like it is very different from those games as well. The way it does unit attacks and stuff. You're able to you have to like declare what lane of the battlefield you're attacking, and then your opponent can put defensive units in those lanes to defend against the enemy that is attacking or whatever. So it's very interesting in that regard. So you have to like match your enemy with units they're attacking with, and I like that. That sounds pretty interesting. The game also sounds very generous as a free-to-play game. There are no traditional booster packs the way they would be in other CCGs. They are, from what I understand, you get card rarity types within the packs, but you use those. You don't actually get specific cards. You use those to buy cards that you want. So you can literally
okay.
pick the card you want with what you get in your booster pack, which is a very, very cool feature because that's a lot of the issue with card games is that it's so luck based on what cards you get in the booster packs that you buy that honestly, the more money you spend, the more likely it is you're going to have good cards, and it turns into a pseudo pay-to-win situation because of that. And this game is trying to mitigate that somewhat. So I do appreciate that. I also heard that the game gives away a lot of shit, a lot of like resources in game for people. So I'm probably going to check it out. I may harass you to try it with me.
I'll try it. I mean,
hey man, I know you're in the league, so it's like it looks pretty cool, dude. Like you should check out a video of it.
I'm actually watching a video of it right now. It reminds me of Gwent.
It's very strategic. It's very strategic. In the way that it looks very strategic, at least to me. So and honestly, it has the characters from League in the game as cards, and they have abilities that reflect the way they play in the actual game, which is cool. So yeah. So it looks interesting. So check that out. That's coming out in about 2 weeks. I think you can play it now, though, in the open beta. They said they're not doing a wipe of progression. So anything you do within the next 2 weeks is part of the game anyways. So you can start playing right now, I think.
Oh, that's cool.
So yeah, check that out. All right, last one. So this one happened yesterday. This kind of came out of the blue. This is another one that's coming out very soon. 2K announced that there is going to be an XCOM spinoff coming out on April 24th called XCOM Chimera Squad. Now, this is not going to be necessarily like a normal XCOM game in terms of its depth. I believe you're going to have like a squad of 11 characters that you can play with, and they are pre-built from what I understand. So I think it's more of a like story-driven game where you have to like get through missions with these 11 characters in specific configurations, and that's going to be the way you play the game. But so I'm assuming it's going to be a lot shorter as well because it's only $20. But yeah, so if you're into XCOM though, more XCOM for you.
I really need to get into this franchise.
I do too, dude. Man, as much as I love strategy games, it's just like so daunting though, man.
Yeah.
I've never been able to get over that mental hurdle in my head. Even though I own XCOM 1 and 2, the newest ones, like I've never played either one of them. Like it's just, I don't know, I can't get over it. Like I
don't know, something about these strategy games that scare me because I really want to play Wasteland.
Yeah.
I think those are the ones that are kind of like XCOM-ish as far as like old school.
Yeah.
Well, Wasteland is more so like Fallout. So I really want to get into that, but I just know it's really daunting, like as far as like the combat and everything of that nature.
Well, I'm not like afraid of the game. I'm more afraid of the fact that I'm going to love it and I'm going to get sucked into the game so hard that I don't play anything else, you know? And it's just like I never feel like I'm in a situation where I can do that, you know?
Yeah.
Just get lost in a game like this. So I don't know. That's kind of what's been my barrier for so long. But I'm sure I will try one of these games someday. But I mean, I know XCOM 2 is really good. So
there's another game that just came out that getting really good reviews. Is that the Gears of War Tactics game that just came out? It's getting really good reviews, and I want to try that.
I did hear that. Yeah, that is. Yeah, it's pretty cool. I love the fact that they're branching out the franchise with something like that. That's pretty cool. I think the strategy genre is so underserved, I feel like, in so many ways. There's so many game IPs that could fit within that genre, in my opinion, and very few of them actually try that. So it's nice to see, you know, like Gears doing that. Mario did it a couple of years ago with the XCOM Mario Rabbids game that came out. So, you know, I think I'd love to see more companies dabble in that sphere.
I think people are starting to see that it's probably a low cost and high output type game. You know, only thing you got to really worry about is maybe, you know, a programmer, you know, doing all the codes and everything of that nature, making sure the damage numbers are right and things of that nature.
Yeah, it's the statistical systems, I think, that are intimidating. Because the games can be very complicated.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, once you get past that hurdle, though, I feel like the games are very inexpensive to make as far as that. Like, you know, you just got to make a couple of maps and things of that nature, or make map variety and enemy variety. That's pretty much it, though. As far as making a full-fledged game like Call of Duty, like I think Call of Duty could work as a strategy game.
For sure. I think almost any franchise could.
Yeah, because it was one game, one Call of Duty game where you can control a strike team on a single-player mission, and you had like 3 or 4 different strike teams. You can approach the map in like 4 or 5 different ways, and it was really cool. But they never went back to that, and I'm like, why don't they make a full-fledged game out of this? Because I thought that was really freaking cool.
Right. Well, dude, like they could easily make like an XCOM game. You know, like in like a Call of Duty franchise, like they could totally do that. Like it would work, I think. But
I would want them to make I mean, I know it's a stretch, but like a real-time strategy game out of a Call of Duty franchise.
Oh yeah, like a Command and Conquer or something.
Yeah, I think that would be pretty cool. And then you can kind of like, if you want to influence the battle, you can zoom in on one soldier and play first-person mode, then zoom back out or some shit like that. That would be pretty cool. So.
Right. Word. Well, all right, let's move on to the final segment. Game releases for the week. There's very little. It looks like a bunch of indie games for the most part on Switch. I'm seeing the Double Dragon games. They're coming on PlayStation 4. Double Dragon 1, 2, and 3. But yeah, not much. This would have been the week that Cyberpunk was coming out originally.
Yeah, I saw somebody tweet that.
Yeah. Which, like, I'm okay with that. I'm okay that it's not out because I would be crying right now if that game was on top of everything else I have to play.
God, that's at
So,
least 100 hours. I think that game's
right,
about 100
dude,
hours,
I
man.
know. That's yes, it is. It's going to be. Yeah, no, it is. It's going to be. It just is. So, yeah, so I'm kind of glad that's not coming up. All right. Any games jumping out to you?
Uh, there was one game that jumped out to me. Hold on, trying to look for it. I thought I wanted to try out
Later daters.
Later Daters. What the heck?
It's a game.
No,
Sniper, Super Pixel Racers,
nah, never mind.
Cryo Gear.
Nah,
How about this one? Hyper Jam.
no. Now you're just messing with me.
No, these are real games on the list, man. These are all real. Sync R.
It's next week. It's not this week. It's
Oh,
next
it's next
week.
week? Okay,
Yeah,
fair enough.
Sakura Wars
Oh, yeah. I've been hearing about that one. Oh, yeah.
and Trials of Mana comes out next week.
That's actually 2 weeks from now.
2 weeks from now. Yeah.
Sakura Wars. Okay, cool. Well, so we're at about 110 right now. We have a topic of the show potentially. Do you want to just jump into that, man?
Yeah, we can
talk about it for like 20 minutes. All right. So with the release of Final Fantasy VII Remake and Resident Evil 3 Remake and Resident Evil 2 Remake last year, we're kind of in a renaissance of remaking old games, right? Games from eras where graphical fidelity was not very good, technical limitations were abundant, and developers couldn't do everything they wanted to do. So they're remaking a lot of these old classic games. Obviously, we just talked about another one, Resident Evil 4 Remake. And given this, it's kind of become an interesting situation because obviously these games are old. Final Fantasy VII is almost 25 years old, and Resident Evil 3 is 20 years old, I think, or 21 years old. It's a very old game. They're both very old games. So obviously their plots are out there. Nobody cares about spoilers for these games. However, now that they're coming out again and they're being remade, what does that mean for spoilers related to these games? Obviously, the games are a little different from what they were. However, their overall plots are likely going to be very similar to the original games in terms of like the plot structure, right? And some of the big revelations. So what does that mean to you, in terms of spoiling? Like, is it okay to talk about the end of Final Fantasy VII or big points within Final Fantasy VII, like X character dies, which we all know the meme if you've played Final Fantasy VII. But, is it okay to talk about that? Or is this something we should hold back on so that newer generation of players can experience these games in an authentic way?
I think it still should be something we hold back on. So like you said, so they can experience it for themselves. Even though I was not a victim, perpetrator of spoiler culture. I tweeted out somebody dies, and no one saw the tweet.
I saw you do this.
Yeah, so no one saw the tweet because I don't think that's going to happen. I don't know if that's going to happen for the way the story is going. They said they remade some things,
right?
So that may not.
That's not a guarantee.
Happen. Yeah, but I feel like that aspect, even if I hadn't tweeted that out, that has been spoiled for everyone. That
for years,
years.
You could literally type the character's name in, and that's the first thing that would happen. You would get in Google.
It's a running joke on the internet at this point.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, I definitely did feel bad about that, but then I was like, I mean, in that aspect, I don't feel bad about that because that is like over on the internet. There's no way you can stay dark about that one simple thing. Now, other stuff, I didn't say anything about, like the Turks or anything like that, or everybody's relationships with Cloud and everything of that nature. Like, I haven't said anything about that because I think people should discover who Cloud is and his relationships to different things and how he discovers his past and all this stuff like that. I think people should experience that in other ways. I also didn't. I did it as a joke, so I do apologize. That's my fault on that, y'all. But like I said, that joke is everywhere. So
yeah.
But as far as like, if they remade The Witcher 1 or some shit like that, or Witcher 2, and they completely remade that game, I wouldn't want to spoil that at all, because even though it's a well-known game, a lot of people haven't played that game. Or let's say now, right? What game just came out now? Persona 5 or something like that. And let's say 20 years they want to remake it. In 10 years they want to remake the game. I wouldn't want to spoil that. Like, there's certain parts of the game that I want to tell you that are so good because the game is just really good as far as narrative and story. But I'll spoil it for you. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. I think spoiler culture is bad as far as remakes. I think it depends. It is very situational though, like very situational. I don't think you should spoil the overarching plot.
Yeah.
But we do also take in consideration that there are younger kids like 10 or 15.
Right. 24. Like, I think Final Fantasy 7 is 23 years old or 24 years old. I mean, that is an adult, you know, if they were born that year, you know, that is like, there are plenty of kids way younger than that could be playing this game for the first time that have never played Final Fantasy 7, you know, like that is something I think the older generation of us need to kind of come to grips with, is that not everybody that plays video games now understands the history of video games, you know, and has played fucking every fucking game, you know? A lot of younger kids cannot handle those older games. Like, they just don't want to play games that look like Final Fantasy 7 because it looks like ass, you know? And I don't necessarily think there's anything wrong with that. Now, I know this has been an argument recently about Chrono Trigger and shit. Like, that game looks like shit, so I don't want to play it, but whatever. I don't want to get into that. But point being is, like, people have preferences, right? And younger kids, their preferences likely are going to line up with the games they've played in their lives, which are 3D, you know? And they're used to this world we live in where games look good, you know? And it's not unreasonable for them to have an expectation that the games they play look good, you know, because that's what they grew up with, you know? Now, to me, this is an unfortunate juxtaposition of the discussion in nerd culture, because I feel like on Twitter specifically, and then even on Reddit and YouTube and things like that and other places, like, when something new comes out, like, I'll take like Avengers, for example, Avengers Endgame, or whatever, Infinity War, whichever one you want to talk about. When that came out, right, everybody goes to see it. We all go the first night because we're all fucking super hyped, right? We don't want anything spoiled for us. We go, and then we go on the internet and we start talking about it because we're so excited about the movie, you know, and we want to talk about it with other people. So all of a sudden we're on Twitter and we're fucking spoiling the movie because we saw it. Like, you know, oh, what fucking jackass didn't go see the movie the first night, you know? Like, you clearly don't care about the movie if you don't go see it day one, right? So it's like, there's an unfortunate juxtaposition between that and then not spoiling something, because it's like, by not spoiling things, you are inhibiting your ability to talk about it in full depth, you know? But at the same time, I feel like not spoiling something for other people is just the way, it's just being courteous, you know? Like, I don't want to spoil something for anybody. I'm very sensitive to spoilers. I don't want things spoiled for me because, yes, people have, like, honestly, some people feel like, you know, if something gets spoiled for you, it's not going to ruin the revelation. But for me, like, I like to go in blind to things, you know? I don't even fucking watch trailers for things that I'm interested in because they spoil the plot, you know? And I don't want that to be spoiled for me. And I don't even want necessarily like gameplay to be spoiled either. You know, I want to kind of come in fresh and experience that fresh, you know? So it's kind of a like unfortunate situation with these remakes, because these games are so old that many people obviously played them, and tons of people know the plot of Final Fantasy 7 or Resident Evil 2 or Resident Evil 3, you know? But it's like, because it's like almost assumed that you know that stuff, but there's so many people out there that don't, you know? So it's like, I feel like it's a thing that like no one really talks about, that we could be spoiling these games for a new generation who are partially who these games are being made for. Yes, they're being made for us, but they're also being made so that they can bring new people in, you know?
I do get that. I guess one point someone can counter with that is that this game's also been released recently, like obviously not remade or remastered, but like upscaled and everything like that on like cell phones, PC, Switch.
Yeah.
And a lot of the younger generation have played the game, maybe because they just love JRPGs and things of nature. So they're not necessarily spoiled by it. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So when you do say like something like that, when you do a spoiler, you're not necessarily spoiling it because the game has been released on 12 different platforms within the last 5 years. You know what I'm saying? Like Resident Evil 4, for example, I can understand the things that happened in that game was not really like super spoily, but the game has been released on all platforms within the last 5 years. Same with Final Fantasy VII before the remake came out. So I mean, it is an argument that should be, or is a conversation that should be had. But as far as like games like this, these are like super well known games, and I don't think the spoilers are as bad. Like. Mm-hmm. That's just my opinion on it. I don't think the spoilers is as bad as like if you had Burrick Saga, right? They remade that game. That game's not well known right now, but let's say the remake came out and it just blew everybody away. I would be upset if someone spoiled that game for me because that's not a well known game. It hasn't come out, been re-released within the last 5 years, except for like the fan made translation. But like on actual buying it without pirating it, because I still consider that as a pirate. If you actually on retail,
of course, there's no way to buy it. So
yeah, exactly. So
whatever.
On retail platforms and things of that nature, on retail shop systems, there's no way for me to play it. So if they remade Burrick Saga and put it on the Switch and completely remade it, but kept the spirit of the game what it is, and I absolutely love it, I would be upset if someone spoiled the game for me.
Right.
I think spoiler culture in general is hard to avoid. I think now it's more so up to the user than it is the environment.
Which is how I approach it. I mean, when I'm really anticipating something that's coming soon and I don't want to be spoiled for it, I mean, I go blackout, dude. I get off Twitter. I stop reading articles, like I try to get away from the internet, honestly, because I don't trust people, because I've seen literally headlines spoil things before, and it sucks. It's such a shitty, like, that kind of stuff to me, like, should never happen. You should not have spoilers in your fucking headline. You shouldn't have it in your video title. You shouldn't have it in your podcast title, whatever the hell. You shouldn't have that like in such a unavoidable place, because that shit can just show up on my feed and okay, I just got spoiled, it's like, so I mean, there's another layer of this too, is like, I'm somebody that's never played the Resident Evil games, so I've been spoiled to shit on them, and I don't really care because I'm not like into them, but it's like one of those things, like, what if somebody was like me though and was really interested in the remake and now they're fucking spoiled to shit? It's like, I don't know. So it's like something I feel like we should all approach it with more care, I guess, but it's hard to do.
Exactly. I would say how can we approach it when it's so ingrained in our economy? I mean, because streamers play this shit first day or days before it come out, or YouTubers.
And you'll see clips and whatever on Twitter or wherever the hell. I mean, to me, like, the way I kind of approach it, I guess, is really make it clear you are going to spoil something, like, really try to make it clear you're going to spoil something. And honestly, I'll even call us out. I don't necessarily think we're the best about this sometimes. Like, yes, we do clearly like spell out spoilers most of the time, but like, we will spend half of our episode talking about spoilers. So it's like, if you don't want to be spoiled, you're just missing half the podcast, it's like, so, I mean, I don't know. It's a tough thing. Like, I do listen to a podcast. They do their spoiler discussions as a separate episode from their normal show, and I really like that because I can just put it aside until I've played the game, and I think that's a really safe way to do it for people, where you don't put it in the main episode where you're like, hey, just skip ahead a few minutes, and you don't timestamp it or anything like that. So it's just like you don't really know when the spoiler discussion ends. So it's like, I think it's something that we can all kind of do better about. But I think the thing is like, don't be an asshole, don't clearly spoil something when people in the discussion that you're having haven't watched it or haven't listened to it yet or played it yet or whatever, whatever the case. Like, I mean, I've been spoiled just talking to people at work, like hearing people talk about shit at our job, and it's like so annoying to me that happens, because it's like I feel like I should be safe working, to be spoiled about something that I'm really excited about, but it's happened, and I'm sure I've done it. It's like, but it's like I try to be really cognizant of that whenever I'm having a conversation, like try to be vague with your statements. Don't necessarily name characters or like, name a specific thing. Like, you can say things in a way that gets your point across without actually spoiling what you're talking about.
Yeah, and that's what I try to do for the most part. I
Yeah.
normally don't even spoil stuff on my Twitter. Like I just thought that was funny when because no one said anything when I did it. So I'm like, everyone already knows this, and it was already spoiled. But I just think that was one of those rare instances where I was just like, I just was just playing and joking around because I knew going into the Final Fantasy remake that they're remaking that game, and I don't think they're going to take the same story structure. I think they're actually going to do some things different as far as that.
Yeah. I
Uh,
mean, they already are, dude.
yeah,
Like, I'm in the first 2 hours, like, God, I feel like I'm about to say a spoiler, but a character shows up that wasn't in the original version of the game at this point in time,
yeah.
like, and he's a very, very important character. So, it's like, yeah. So they've already made significant changes in the game. And,
Yeah. And I
certain
mean
characters have gotten really fleshed out too. Like I know like Jesse and Biggs and Wedge, they're in a significant portion of this game, whereas in the original version of Final Fantasy VII, they were just kind of throwaway side characters for the most part.
exactly. Yeah.
So
And I feel like that's that's what I feel like a remake should do. A remake should remake the game.
yeah,
And I saw a lot of people complain about that the game's not an exact remake of Final Fantasy VII
yeah,
as far as story wise and things of that nature. Um, but like I said before, you have if you want to play those games, you have 5 different platforms you can play them on.
yeah,
And they're all remastered. So, or
right,
not remastered, but yeah, they're all upscaled, I should say. So,
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
It's just I don't know.
it's a
It's
slippery
such a
slope. I
it's such a
mean,
tightrope, dude. Because
yeah,
like I said, we
it's
want to talk about things we're excited about, but how do you do it without spoiling it?
it's one of those things where I feel like it's up to the user. Like,
Yeah,
it's a very tough thing and like matter of fact and cynical thing to say, but it is like unfortunately you can't stop that. It's one of those things you can't stop. Like to me, this is like a very extreme example, but it's the only example I can really think of off the top of my head. We shouldn't have to have locks on our doors, but we do because people like to break into them. I shouldn't have to, but I
right.
do. I
Yeah,
have a lock. And if I don't lock my door and my house gets broken into, someone steals my stuff because I didn't lock my door. That's a part of the thief. Like that's, I'll say 80% of his fault, but 20% is on me for not securing my home and letting the thief come in. So I feel
yeah,
like as far as spoilers, like if I'm dead set on a new game that's coming out or a game that I've been anticipating, it's on me to where Twitter uh, and Google and everything of these natures have these tools available to where you can have spoiler free content on your timeline, on your article feeds and things of that nature to where it won't come up. So it's really up to you not to spoil yourself. And I understand like I shouldn't have to go that length, but unfortunately, it's the internet. Everything is being shared. You have to go that length if you really don't want to be spoiled, or just don't get on the internet, or don't normally get on the internet for things that you would normally get on for. If
hmm
that makes any sense in that
yeah.
aspect.
Yeah, like I said, I tend to take that responsibility on myself, very seriously because I don't want to be spoiled. Like God of War is the game I'm thinking of right now from 2018. Like, dude, the week before that game came out, I didn't get online because I didn't want to see the reviews. I didn't want to see any discussion around the reviews. And once the game came out, I didn't get back online really until I beat it because I wanted to experience that game in the most authentic way I could without any outside influence, in my opinion, or the way I perceive the game, or a moment that happens that changes the way I end up viewing that moment because I know about it. So like in that game is one of my favorite games. As a result, I feel like if I had been spoiled on some of the major story moments, it might not have had as much impact on me as it did. And so, but it's like I had to go through, like I said, I didn't really get on Twitter for 2 weeks. It's like, so it's just one of those things. Like I don't care about Final Fantasy VII that much because I know the story, so I'm not that concerned about it. But there are specific games that, like the next Nier that comes out, dude. That game, I am gonna go on media blackout for. Like I'm not gonna let people spoil that game for me. Because I think those games need to be experienced without without being spoiled, to get the maximum impact out of them. So I do agree with you somewhat. Like it's like I can't go on Twitter and start reading comments about the newest game and expect no one to have spoilers. It's like, yeah, they're talking about the game that just came out and they all beat it. Like, yeah, sure. I'm sure somebody's going to mention something spoilery. Like you kind of have to know that going in, So
Yeah, and I think another part of spoilers is like I don't even know if it's necessarily spoilers, but like people telling you should play the game, or like, oh, this game's ending is just so good, man, you got to get to it. Like, and then what if I get to it and my expectations are not? My expectations are super high because everyone, like, I feel like Nier Automata is like that. I haven't beat that game yet. I love the combat. I just haven't beat it yet. But everyone's like, oh my God, the story, the ending is just so good. And I get to it. And if I get to it, it's like so built up in my head, even though no one spoiled it for me, but it's so built up in my head that this ending is just so.
It can never meet your expectations.
Exactly.
I'm gonna downplay what those people said, even though I'm a hype man for that game. Like, I think the endings of the game themselves are nothing special. It's there's that moment at the end of the credits that's pretty special, but it's I don't know. I thought it was really cool. I loved it, but I just don't think it's necessarily going to have an impact on everybody. It's not a guarantee that it's going to hit you the same way it hit me and others,
Yeah.
So I don't know how it will hit you, So I can't like guarantee that it's going to be a great moment for you.
But what would you call that though? What would you call that? Like, because a lot of people, not you or anyone else, but like not anyone in particular, but a lot of people do that where they like, man, even I do it, right?
I do it.
I'm like, man, when you get to this part, you can be like, holy shit. And it's like they get to that part and they're not like, holy shit. And it's like, I don't even know what you call that build up. Like, are you spoiling the build up?
It's false expectations.
Okay.
Like that, like people are they're setting an expectation and you trust that person. So you're kind of taking that expectation on yourself and you're like, fuck, I'm really anticipating this moment. And then the moment comes and you're like, that was it. It's like, I've had that happen before. My brother does this to me all the time because he's a hype man for, tons of games that he loves. And I'll play the game and I'll be like, eh. And he'll be like, what are you talking about, dude? Like, oh my God, this is like the coolest thing. I was like, eh, I guess. Like, it's cool, I guess. Like, and it's just like, so that's why I try to be cognizant of that. I try not to like overhype a game and be like, this is the greatest thing I've ever played. Oh my fucking God.
I try not to do that either, but people take me as being cynical or not being passionate about it, right?
Right.
Like, so I try to get like
I have that same problem, dude.
Yeah, like I try to get like maybe like Deanna, for example, right? I try to get her into other games, but I don't tell her about the game. I was just like, hey, you gotta play it. That's all I say, right? And she's like, why do I have to play it? And I'm like, well, if you like this game, you'll like this game, but you just gotta play it. And then she's like, why do I have to play it?
You're
Why
trying not to set an expectation for her.
Yeah, I'm trying to set an expectation. I just want you to play the game and experience it new. Like, that was it for me. That's why I think Persona 5 took a lot of people by storm, right? Because a lot of people, even though I know a lot of people are going to shoot me in the head for this, Persona 4 was popular, but it's not to the degree Persona 5 was. And when Persona 5 came out, a lot of people.
It's not even close.
Yeah,
it's not even close.
But I'm just telling you, people would shoot my head off of that.
I understand, but they shouldn't, because it's not even close.
So when a lot of people like myself, I played Persona 4, but I only played a couple of hours of it, right? And then I threw it away. Like, I didn't throw it away because I didn't like it. I just threw it away because there were more other stuff in my mind at the time. Mm-hmm. And it was on the PSP, right? Yeah.
No,
it was on the PS Vita. Okay, so I just didn't play it as much, right? So when I didn't have any expectations as far as story, the narrative of the story, things of that nature. I was just expecting it to be a regular JRPG. You got a hero who needs to save the world. You got a party. Things go wrong. There may be some twists or something like that with the evil villain. Boom, boom, bow. Thank you, ma'am. I didn't expect it to actually tackle real world issues. And that threw me for a loop. I was just like, holy shit, this is like a mind-blowing moment. So when I do tell people about Persona 5, then I went back and played Persona 4 and I discovered hey, this is actually a hallmark, a staple in the franchise. This is what they
Yeah.
do.
Yep.
So when I tell people about Persona 5, like that's why I try to go with you already know about Persona. So I was just saying you have to play it, but I didn't want to give you an example of like why you should play
Well,
it.
dude, I beat Persona 4, so yeah, I know
Yeah.
all about this shit. Like
Yeah,
I
that's what I'm
know I'm
saying.
gonna
Like
Persona 5. I'm not
yeah.
I don't need any expectations. Like my expectations are the game's gonna be fucking awesome, but
Yeah.
it's like I just it's yeah, it has nothing to do with any of that. It's just time for me with that game. Like
Exactly. And I feel like Persona 5 hit me like that is because no one really explained to me why Persona 4 was good. I just knew my friends loved it. They're like, man, this game is just fucking good. And they didn't explain why it was good.
yeah,
I
I see when
went
I try
into
to
it.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I went into it just blind. I'm like, let me buy it.
Mm-hmm.
I bought this game and I just played it and I'm like, holy shit, this game's good as fuck. Like
Yeah,
I see why people love it.
the way I'd explain it is that it's not like see this is what I try to do. I try to put it as plainly as I can and explain it from like almost like a mechanical standpoint. Is that Persona is not structured like a traditional JRPG. It is a JRPG, but it's just it doesn't have that like Tales structure or Final Fantasy structure. It's completely different from those games. It takes place in the real world. You have a schedule and you have to spend your time within that schedule in order to do things. And you have a lot of time on your hands, but you can't do everything. So it's like it's almost like a time management game, but it's an RPG too. Like you have your battles and like, you know.
See, even that, right?
Yeah.
I try to explain that to people because I'm the type of person that hates time constraints. Like I hate time constraints in my game, like to do everything.
Yeah. Right.
So when I first heard about that, that turned me off to Persona. I was like, what the fuck? Why would I want a game that's like going to limit me?
But yeah.
And that's why I try to explain it to people like, yo, you just gotta play the game. Just play it and see if you like it. Because even though I try to explain like it's a JRPG and it's a different type, like I don't know, it's certain things to explain a video game is just really hard. And
it is really hard without spoiling it or like overhyping expectations or being too effusive with praise. It's really hard to do.
Yeah,
you know?
because
like
we
saying it plainly,
tastes.
you can make a game sound boring, you know?
Yeah.
Like the way I was describing Persona 5, that might have been that, like you said, that might not have sounded appealing, you know? It's like, but you know, it is what it is. That is probably the biggest issue with games for me. And this is why I wish demos were not as rare as they are, because nothing will get you to understand a game more than playing it, you know?
Exactly.
I don't care how many videos you watch. I don't care how many people explain it to you or try to explain it to you. You will never understand a game as much as you do by playing it. Like it's impossible.
Exactly. And I think that falls into spoilers because if you play like a 10-hour demo or something, that video games sometimes have this way of like the first 5 hours of the game are completely different from the last 10 hours of the game.
Or you don't have everything unlocked or
and the game just opens the fuck up. Like Monster Hunter is one of those games. Neo is one of those games. Like where you don't have everything unlocked when you play it. And then especially Monster Hunter, it's really that game to me is one of those games where you have to be dedicated to understand the structure of that game, the game loop and everything of that nature. Because you go into it playing the first 5 hours and you're just like, ugh, I hate this shit.
Yeah, but their demo, those two games you just mentioned, Neo and Monster Hunter, actually are great examples of what you do with a demo. Because Neo 2 and Neo's demo put you in the middle of the game with everything basically unlocked and just said, here you go. You have all the weapons, you have your form shift, you have all this shit that, you're not going to have at the beginning of the game, but we want you to get a taste of the game as it is, with all the shit available. And Monster Hunter did the same thing, didn't it?
Yeah,
you fight 3 different monsters, right? And you had all the weapons available to you, and you had a couple different armor sets, right? You could use.
Yeah, yep.
And I remember the demo for Monster Hunter. Didn't it have Nergigante in it? It was like the third monster, wasn't it? You had to unlock it, and then it was like really fucking hard because you were fighting it with like shitty armor and weapons, right?
Yep, you're right.
So yeah, I think those are really good ways to do your demo because, I mean, in the case of Monster Hunter, maybe showing Nergigante was a little bit spoilery, given the way that game plays out. But At the same time, though, at least it sets your expectations properly for what the game is going to be, because you're really playing the actual game. You're not playing the early part of the game that's useless and is a bunch of shitty tutorials, you know?
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of what you have to go for if you're going to make a demo. So, but that takes effort, which is why we don't see very many demos.
Yeah, I mean, demos contain spoilers, so if you do put someone in the middle of the game, it may have a lot of spoilers. But then also to counter that, you don't have any context. So if you put someone in the middle of Persona 5 in this epic moment that happens, right? I don't have any context, so it's not epic. But then when I go back, I like the gameplay though. I'm like, man, this game's really good. I'm like, just go ahead and buy it. I get to that moment, I'm like, oh shit, this was about blah 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 blah. Like, that's how you can do demos, in my opinion. I mean, because a lot of old school demos used to do that. They used to throw you in the middle of the game, no context whatsoever, and you're just like, what the fuck is going on? And then you want to figure out more, but then the game cuts off and it's like, that's it for a demo.
Well, the other way you can do it too is Neo did this both times, I think, is the demo had levels in it that weren't in the actual game. It was, they were, I'm pretty sure that's the case. Maybe I'm wrong though. I might be wrong about that, actually, thinking about it. I think the first game's demo had definitely, the one I played, I think the level was actually in the game, but it was a little different in the main game from what it was in the demo. But that's another thing you can do too. You can make a demo that's not in the game, and maybe that's like, maybe some people would say that's like almost withholding content or requiring you to play something outside of the actual game to get the full experience. But you don't have to structure it so there's like story shit in there, it's just the gameplay part of it, so there's multiple ways to do it, I guess, but I do wish we'd see more demos. I think that Final Fantasy VII demo, the remake demo, actually sold a lot of people in the game, so they can be very beneficial when you do them properly.
Yeah, I
cool.
agree.
Word. Any other thoughts on spoiler culture?
No. Just try to be cognizant of what you're doing on both ends.
Yeah, just be courteous to people. Like, don't be a dick. I think that's always the takeaway is like, don't be a jerk, man. It's very easy to spoil something for somebody. Just be aware of that as you're, having your discussions. Cool. All right. That's going to be the end of the episode for us, guys. So if you like this episode, please like the episode, review the episode, subscribe to the show on whatever feed you're listening to it on. And please, if you could, share it with your friends. We are looking to grow the audience. If you'd like to talk to either of us on Twitter, you can do so at iTrap for the Hokage for Montrell. That is the number 4, not the word. I am at ThunderNut01, and the show is at The Player's Take. If you'd like to send us a question, you can do so on Twitter, or you can send us an email to theplayerstake01@gmail.com. And that's going to be it for us this week. Next week, I have no idea what the hell we're going to be talking about. I feel like we are entering a dead period of gaming right now.
Topic of the show time. This is my favorite time.
Yeah, man. Right. We're gonna be doing the more of these like topic of the show episodes as there's less news. So we are approaching though E3's time frame, even though it's not happening. I imagine there's gonna be some announcements there, for certain companies. So we'll see.
Yeah, I think they're still gonna do like some streams and stuff like that.
Yeah, which means we're gonna get leaks and so announcements. So, that's coming up in the next few weeks. So, all right. Well, we hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and we will see you on the next one. All right? Bye, guys.